Massachusetts Congressman Bill Keating is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. The veteran legislator from the Cape is a strong supporter of Ukraine, but as the war with Russia enters its second year, is battle fatigue beginning to set in here? The congressman's in the chair. He's joining us. Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR, everyone. I'm Ed Harding, along with News 5's political reporter, Sharmin Saketi. It's great to have you with us this morning. And as you can see with us is Congressman Bill Keating. He is a Democrat representing the state's 9th district. He has served in Washington since 2011, Norfolk County DA for over a decade before that, also serving in the Massachusetts House and Senate. Holds degrees from BC and Suffolk University. Thank you, sir. It's always great to see you. Great to see you.
Well,
Happy New Year, by the way.
Yes.
Because it's the first time this year I've seen you, so Happy New Year.
It's great to be in person after a couple of these that were virtual.
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes, absolutely. Right. Well, let's start with Ukraine. Yeah. We just marked the 1-year anniversary of the Russian invasion. You did travel to the war zone last spring as part of a congressional delegation. So explain to us, when or how does this war end?
Well, you know, who would have guessed that a year ago, when all the intelligence groups, not just in Europe, not just Ukraine's own intelligence, but the U.S. intelligence experts said that when the Russian invasion occurred, it would be a matter of just weeks. Mm-hmm. And that was the consensus with everyone. And to think we're here a year later, and the President of the United States, President Biden, walked through the center of Kyiv at this time, it's just astounding if you go from this point on.
Do you think people are getting weary?
Well, that's a real concern. You know, this battle is being fronted on two levels. There's actually two fronts. There's the trench warfare that's occurring right now with terrible casualties. I mean, in this 1 year, there's been over 200,000 Russian casualties. Think about those numbers for a second. And there's been about 20,000 civilians killed, Ukrainians, innocent Ukrainians. Casualties, 7,000 to 8,000 were killed, including over 400 children. I mean, this is horrific. And this is what's transpired. People say, where will it end? But the important thing is this. There's an invisible front. There's the front that exists that we get reports on every day. But what gives Putin the greatest hope, because his military has been a failure and shown its incompetence, his strategy has been flawed, and it's just one of the worst malpractice cases of strategy, probably in the modern times. But there's a second front that offers him the most hope.
And that is?
That's the front where he is in Moldova right now, in Bulgaria, in Slovakia, and in the United States. Hybrid warfare, where he is trying to break the Democratic coalition that is his worst nightmare. When he did this, he never anticipated that the coalition would come together like this. He saw Germany under transition. He saw U.S. with war fatigue from Afghanistan. He saw the French elections. And so he thought that would crack. And so right now, with disinformation, getting involved in elections, he's looking at 2024 and the presidential elections here. And the elections that are occurring in these fragile democracies in Europe as his best hope.
So the United States has provided billions in military aid and humanitarian aid to Ukraine, $112 billion so far approved by Congress. The president rallied the West in Poland last week. You mentioned the stop in Kyiv. He also rallied the West in Poland, pushing back over spending from some conservative lawmakers. Is the pushback against that is beginning to grow. Will the Republican majority that's in the House continue to support Ukraine?
I think the majority is there now, but if you listen to them privately, they're very influenced by people like Tucker Carlson in private conversations. So there's that wing of the party, but it's also growing, and there's a concern. And it's not lost on the Ukrainians. I met just a couple of weeks ago with the mayor of Bucha, where these atrocities were uncovered, and I met the same time, the same week, with the prosecutor, chief prosecutor, Kostin. From Ukraine. We're working on legislation together here in the U.S. And they know it there, too. It's their greatest concern. And we have to be so careful with that, because people should understand we're also supporting democracy against the big fight against global authoritarianism. That's one level of this. But there's a level that hits here back at home of self-interest that I think people should realize. A year ago, in an official communication from the Russian Federation to the United States just prior to their invasion. It was their last ultimatum to us. And they said that their goals, stated out clearly, also included disarming half of NATO. So this isn't just about Ukraine. Their goals are quite clear, and it's to go further to NATO. And if they go 1 inch into NATO soil, we're on the ground with our troops because we have an ironclad treaty to do that through Article 5.
Right.
So
Right.
this
Right.
could affect
Right.
troops on the ground, U.S. troops, if we fail here.
All right. Well, let's turn to local issues. You did sign on to a letter with Senator Elizabeth Warren and other colleagues, Ed Markey as well, urging MassDOT and the Army Corps of Engineers to secure federal funding to replace the Cape Cod bridges. The letter blamed the Baker administration for, quote, dropping the ball on a rejected funding proposal. Do you think the delegation also bears some responsibility here?
Well, I think we're the people that created the orchard. I mean, there's the funds that we usually do, and there's another $25 billion to monies that could be spent for bridges generally. What occurred in the first grants that the reference was the fact that those grants specifically asked for matching funds to be a part of it and starting time. Well, there were no matching funds. And that's just not the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, it was the Army Corps of Engineers too, at the federal level. That's been changed. I think the new grants are going to show those matching funds. The new governor is committed to matching funds for that, and it'll make those more competitive. But people should understand this, and I live just a few miles from the Bourne Bridge.
Right.
We're not going to be beginning construction until about 2025, and there won't be completion maybe until 2031. So these are long-term efforts, and the funding is over time. So we're in a better place now for the grants, but people should understand the time frame.
Well, what is
and
the
what's
time
going to
frame
happen.
in terms of getting this paid for? Do you see that in the near future?
Yeah.
It will be paid for?
Well, it's going to be paid for in phases. So we want to capture some of that money as part of the overall money that will be used. And I think that these grants will be more competitive, and we'll stand a real good chance to get some of that money. Those different phases by themselves aren't enough to build the bridges. Again, that's why I referenced the time frame. It's going to be done over time. But it's going to be done, and it has to be done. The bridges have to be replaced now by the Army Corps' own engineering studies.
Well, here we are in 23, and you can see it no earlier than 2030, 31.
Absolute completion, probably
Probably till
they're going to do it
31-ish.
quickly, and they're going to do twin arches. So you're going to, where the Bourne Bridge is and the Sagamore Bridge, they're going to take one lane. This is
Right.
conceptual at this point, and they're going to build a new bridge beside it.
Right.
That can temporarily do two-way traffic. Then they'll take the other side of the actual Bourne Bridge and Sagamore Bridge down and build another bridge beside it, so you'll have one-way traffic both ways. So what people will see at the end of the day, if plans go according to what they're, at least in the conceptual stage, forecasting, a set of twin bridges, arch bridges.
Right.
So the iconic Bourne Bridge or Sagamore won't be there, but it'll be replaced by twin bridges.
I wanted to ask you about another huge issue on the Cape, and it's water contamination. Homeowners are fearing that they have to make costly upgrades to their septic systems if a solution is not found on that front. So will Congress provide aid? Will there be help in Congress for them?
Well, there's been money already
Yeah.
dealing with the nitrogen issue in Cape Cod, which is a real issue. So the state DEP with these proposed regulations, they're correct in their goal. But we've put millions and millions, 54 million alone, in the Herring River project in Wellfleet, where estuaries will filter that nitrogen. But the problem is bigger than just doing it that way. That's part of the puzzle. So their goal is unrealistic, frankly, in terms of the burden it places on each homeowner. It would require a new septic system for each home that initially would cost $35,000 to $40,000, and then over the life of it, $60,000 to $80,000. And if a person had a mortgage they
Man.
were paying,
Right.
that's over 10% of their mortgage
Right.
payments it translates to. So it can't be done that way. That has to be mitigated. But the good news with the state initiative is it's putting pressure on communities and regions to deal with the issue. And for instance, in Joint Base Cape Cod, this proposal that's really beginning to take strong momentum forward, that'll take care of wastewater treatment for 5 Upper Cape communities. So the push to get it done is important, but the procedures under this are just too burdensome for individual homeowners. So it's impractical, I think, in that respect. But I think it's something we'll continue to work with because the nitrogen issue on
real
Cape Cod
issue.
is a
Real
real
issue.
issue.